All right. Those who have seen the previous installment with Agent Thornton may not be surprised that we're going to spend a little time just reviewing the rules of combat for Call of Cthulhu. Now, normally, the way that we've been running the game, a lot of rules talk has been avoided and direct reference to rules has been avoided, but they've been operating in the background. In a case like combat, it's never a normal situation. Things are always being met by a resistance. That's kind of the nature of combat. And so combat rolls are made. Punching, kicking, headbutting, grappling, that sort of stuff. And for a relatively light system, Call of Cthulhu in its 6th edition offered an interesting variety of options that allow for a pretty natural description of combative intent that is met by a pretty simple system to resolve. A variety of different and very flexible grappling rules, pretty interesting firearms rules, and dare I say, comprehensible or real seeming rules for fisticuffs and boxing and that sort of thing. So in many systems, people are kind of primed to expect some sort of roll for initiative or some kind of randomized processing of who's going to go first this time. This is not a function of this particular expression of the game system. We go in order of dex, which means it's usually not talked about. The game master, the keeper of arcane lore, is aware of everybody's dexterity, and so will, attack first if they've got a faster dexterity, or will just stand around being belligerent until the faster player character attacks first. Well, I'm going to punch the guy. Okay, go ahead. That kind of thing. So all of that is pretty easy. Again, it's just percentile dice. There are, damage rolls that go along with us, which is the only time we don't roll normal percentile dice is when we're inflicting damage. We might have a D3 or a D6 or something like that in damage, or it might be with a modifier. Maybe a lot of Call of Cthulhu characters have a 0 damage modifier, or they actually have a negative damage modifier. It's actually hard for them to beat somebody to death or the like. So in this particular combat exchange, it's possible it could be all fisticuffs and headbutting and grappling and manly displays of physical prowess. But there are guns present. In this case, the initiative order is somewhat changed by virtue of the speed at which the trigger can be pulled. So lighter or faster to operate firearms will operate out of the normal initiative order, and they will operate more often in one turn than just the one punch or the one headbutt or the one kick, that sort of thing. So it'll be quite possible for if Agent Thornton's 32 comes into play, he would fire first, and then he would fire again on his turn, should he so choose, and then he can fire again later, again, if he so chooses, as it has a rate of fire of 3. So I think that pretty much covers everything, except that it is possible to dodge. There is a dodge skill, which is the character's dexterity times 2. And that can be attempted, but it will replace your action. It becomes your action. You are not attacking, you are dodging. You can dodge and parry if necessary, but you cannot dodge and attack. A parry is the application of the same attacking skill that's coming in versus that skill, basically. Not in all cases, but you don't headbutt to parry a headbutt. You could use your fist punch skill to deal with an incoming kick or deal with an incoming headbutt and that sort of thing. But again, the system is pretty loose. So if you've got two people squaring off to box, then you can attempt to outbox them by parrying their incoming blow, and you're allowed to do this. So I guess that pretty much covers everything. So, as I mentioned, people who watched the last episode are aware of why we're having this little overview of combat. So, Brian, how did we end up in this situation?
So we started Friday the 13th, getting up in the morning,
That's right.
and it really began to feel like a thaw was coming on for all of the activity that we had been seeing over the past week or so. The decision was finally made to take a shower to determine where the tattoo was located, close on the left side, next to the heart, which seems to be very concerning. Leaving there on my way to work, really determining what I need to do and find out about this borderland area around where the O'Shaughnessy's old territory is located, now the Morgan's territory. Getting at work, talking with Bill, the decision was made to bring Kyle into the office, given his performance and his stepping up to the plate, as it was, to show up late at night. Discussions with him kind of happened to talk about our second officer in the bullpen, Tyler Prince. And we staged a somewhat of a unobtrusive observational interview to see how Prince would react to seeing the younger agent, newer agent being brought into the office, and then go to him, have an interview with him, just talk with him because of some comments that were made by Kyle about his behavior and attitude towards the job. So I made the decision to bring Tyler with me when I made the decision to go and visit or try and track down Edward Driscoll, where he was at the hospital, survivor of the recent massacre. While there, we had a discussion about the books, and a name was brought to light, possibly a title of the book, Vermis Librum. Not something I'm familiar with, obviously. This is an old antique. When he was shown the effigy, he then went into a paroxysm of madness and panicked reaction, asking that he, please don't kill me, please don't kill me. At which point we were interrupted by the doctors. We stepped off, had a conversation with the doctors, hopefully to follow up where I did leave business card for my office at the family's accounting firm to ensure that should Edward Driscoll fall on hard times, given our current economic state, that he would be taken care of, or that his bills would be taken care of. Returning to the office, was informed that I had a message that I was to come to our family's restaurant, Thornton Diner, immediately from my aunt. Knowing that Bill likes to have a good meal, decided to kind of go in the off lunchtime, take Bill with me. He sits at the table while I go into the back. As I open the door to the office, I can see that my aunt is present, along with a figure who has once was described as being a ghost to me, is also in the room. And that's where I see Mickey the Fist. Our conversation centers around at its start from getting my aunt out of the room into safety. Once she's out of the room and I can shut the door behind me, have a conversation with Mickey about our current situation that both of us seem to be embroiled in, at which point I made the decision after seeing that my uncle, even though he was laying back in his chair and unconscious, was still alive. We continued our conversation, at which point I showed Mickey the tattoo, and then he goes into a bit of a paroxysm of anger and rage and begins to call me a pawn.
Yeah.
And then it all became a little too much as he transforms with a multi-mouthed tentacle-like tongue extending from his mouth as he begins to lurch toward me. And
Right.
that is where we ended the last session.
Got it.
With successfully retaining my cool, though.
That's right. Because he's in your territory.
Yeah.
All right. So this office is not large. It would be described as a shoebox, maybe. It is rectangular. The door into it is from the perspective of walking into the office, the door is in the left front corner, and it opens inward. Behind the door, the inside of the door, there are hooks for aprons and chef's coats and a variety of clothes, right? So the door doesn't close flush against, or doesn't open flush against the wall. And it wouldn't anyway, because all down that left side wall is stacks and boxes of different things, of canned goods and bottled goods, and all lined up. There's a little bit of walking space past that to get behind the desk, right? Around the desk, on the desk, in front of the desk, there are other boxes and stacks of different dry goods and canned goods and that sort of thing. There's enough space to pace in front of the desk, and then beyond the desk, toward the right side of the rectangle, there is a narrow window starting at shoulder height and going up just above the head, right? Not a window that opens, but just, thick panes of glass looking out into parking area. And in that space, beyond the desk, in front of the window, Mickey has been pacing through this entire conversation, but he's now charged in close. A moment ago, he pushed you up against the wall in the boxes next to the door, right? You're face to face in confrontation when you revealed the tattoo, which had moved from out under the arm, right, across the front of your chest and reared up, and he began screaming and calling you upon, and his very famous left and right fists move up into the danger zone, right, ready to be launched, but almost exploding out through his mouth is a tongue, a ridged, gnarled, and bone-encrusted, elongating tongue lined with a variety of gaping mouths all over its surface as he comes in. And as we know, Mickey is strong and Mickey is fast. He has a reputation in the underworld of beating people to death. And that first fist comes in hard.
As kids, our mothers told us that if we did what we were told, stayed out of trouble, and looked to good men and women as role models to better ourselves, we could achieve the American dream. It's hard not to wonder now as the drought eats the heart out of the country and the dust delivers black blizzards and poor men beg for food while rich men fall from the sky. Did they know they were lying? Broken families, broken dreams, broken promises, moments of charity, holding off starvation for another day, so that suffering can carve deeper marks in the rag-clad children of destitute parents cowering in confusion in the shadows of well-heeled shot callers, or the gangsters and politicians with the police taking money from both to keep the peace. Keep your nose clean. Keep it to the grindstone. Keep it out of others' business. The words of our mothers echo down the streets lined with ragged folk with tin cups praying for soup. Can anyone turn this free fall into flight? Is there an answer out there that brings sense to madness? Or do we keep swimming our way toward Asculum?
So as he's lunging in, if he's within hooking range, Alex is going to settle back, right foot back, heel, knocking against the door to ensure that it stays closed. And as Mickey's coming forward, right shoulder going back, left hand coming up in the uppercut position to try and clock him from underneath the chin. But the right hand is moving up underneath his left breast. Since I already had to open my coat, I know the 32 is going to be with an easy grasp, so I don't have to fuss with the clothing.
Okay. Well, you got your strategy all set, right? As you feel the door against your heel, your arms are coming up. You know, you've got a lot of rounds in the boxing gym, right? Everything's working just fine when his fist collides. It's a nice solid hit just below the ear. And you're pretty sure it was the left.
As my head is ringing, I'm going to take the blow and continue on with the uppercut to try and knock his head up and out of position.
Okay, give it a whirl.
That is going to be a 16. It's definitely a solid punch for me.
Yeah. Now he is pretty much out of control. Right. And like you, he doesn't seem to be engaging in any defense. Right.
Okay.
It's a nice, so you connect. Now your head is ringing, your jaw is askew, you've been hammered, right? For 4 points. What do you inflict in return?
Seven.
All right. So it's an uppercut, right? So the head rocks back and he staggers back at an angle, spilling papers and boxes off the top of the desk, right? Some of them spray up and over the unconscious form of your uncle, who doesn't react or move, right? But you can feel the tongue drag roughly, right? Like a serrated edge of a blade across your fist. It's cold and hard, yet still very agile.
So I'm going to press in. So the uppercut comes up. I'm going to press in with the tongue wrapped around my forearm.
Not wrapped, just dragged across.
Just drags across. Yeah. So as it's dragging across, my forearm as he's moving back, the uppercut turns into trying to make a bar across his throat. I'm going to keep driving him back as I'm pulling out the 32, and I'm trying to stay as close to him as I can and just put the gun right against his chest. I mean, he just looks completely mindless, correct?
He looks furious. Furious. Artless.
Okay. So Alex is thinking, I'm going to give him one shot. And he says, "You need to stop." I just shout out, "You need to stop." And I just keep pressing forward, just not trying to choke, but this is a guard position so that I can put my hands from shoulder to shoulder, across his chest, but keep his head up and push that gun into his stomach or right below his solar plexus area, somewhere in here. That's the attempt I'm making.
That's right. Although there's a lot of activity in one motion. So where's the priority in how you're trying to position the body or getting the gun out?
The gun out. Because I know this just from that one. Alex knows from his experience in the ring, that one ringer shot, if I take one or two more shots like that, I'm going to be I am already in a bad spot. And this is self-defense. I know I'm well within my rights of an officer of the law to defend myself.
Right. All right. So he's, against the desk, right? Close the space, have your arm out, going for the gun. Coat's already open. Inside coat's already open. No problem to reach it. But he kicks. And the angle is working against him. It comes up under your arm, but doesn't connect.
So we're pinned against the desk at this point, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Now, if he attacks with the other leg, it's going to come up into the wellspring of life.
Trying to close that boxer stance, a little bit sideways. I'm going to keep pressing as the momentum of his kick is bringing his leg up. His body's going back. I'm trying to bend him back over the desk into almost like a pin position. Still, the gun is coming out. And I'm going to shout it again. "You need to stop. You need to stop."
Okay.
Last chance.
Okay. The tongue.
Okay.
So, gun is out. Gun is free, right? To pin him to the desk, you have to be leaning over his body, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Getting his left leg out between your legs, it actually aids in that process of pinning him to the desk, right? So that part's all working. His lower back is pinned against the desk. He doesn't have much purchase. And from that distance, at least 2 feet, maybe 3 feet distance between your face and his face, the tongue extends. And it's seeking for flesh. And it hits in the throat. Ooh. First, it scrapes across the flesh, tearing the flesh. You can almost hear the flesh rip, but then you feel it burrow in.
Mm-hmm.
I'll ask you to remove 3 hit points.
Okay.
And 1 magic point.
Oh, God. For Steve, you son of a bitch, and the trigger starts pulling. As I mean, the idea is to pin him on the desk, to put as much of my body weight onto him and still control the gun. I know I'm in a public place, and even though I'm an officer of the law, I'm still trying to maintain, some silence over what's happening in this room. Best of luck with that.
Maybe you'll be able to, but with your lifeblood pulsing down this elongating thing, reaching up out of his mouth, with the feeling of cold and life draining from you, it's too much.
The hand just reflexively starts pulling the trigger in panic. I mean, that's blatantly. Yes. I mean, it's pulling back, trying to get back. And at this point, switching feet, right foot now in front, left foot coming back to get away, and right arm extended. I mean, at this point, it's survival mode. I can't keep a grip on this anymore. This last 7 days has just been continuous pounding.
Yes. I don't think anyone could possibly disagree.
No, with no break in between, and some attempt to seek some civility, but it is Friday the 13th after all.
All right. So the first shot.
It's point blank.
Right. This doubles the chance to hit and do damage.
To 22. So it's definitely well within my range, even at double.
Okay.
Four points.
Okay.
This would be somewhere around the midsection, abdomen, torso.
Right.
At this point, it's just shooting for center mass.
Right. So you can see, right, even with the discharge and how loud it is in this enclosed space, right? You can see the dancing pull of his coat, his heavy coat, as the bullet strikes, right? And you can also hear the sound of lead slamming into wood.
Oh yeah, definitely at this range.
Okay. Not a trace of blood is on his face as the bloody tongue pulls out of your throat as you create distance, and it recedes back into his mouth and presumably down his throat. You can see it bulging, right? And his eyes are flaring with an inner light. Second shot is discharged.
.48. That's still within shot range. 5 points.
Ooh. Staggering off the desk, right? Body rolling with the impact of the second hit, right? And bending over as if in great pain. Mickey the Fist, O'Shaughnessy, Enforcer, Pretty Boy, Glamour Boy, front page news icon of the last few years of Gangland's takeover of Boston, runs through the desk and out through the cinder block wall of the restaurant, as if he or they were smoke.
So as he's receding, the gun would be coming up, but I've got my hand pressed up around my throat, trying to suppress the bleeding. would of course try and move forward, running into hip level with the desk. The reaction of trying to chase and pursue a suspect just kind of takes over. And I'm just stunned. I mean, I'm standing there staring at the wall, totally in disbelief about what I've just seen now.
The door kicks open behind you. You hear the racking of a shotgun.
I'm turning around, guns, kind of, the hand's not completely pointing down, but it is definitely moving down, because I know that behind me should be safety. So the assumption in my head is that someone back there is someone that I know. Guns
Your
coming
aunt
down.
is there with the shotgun, fury in her eyes, hair askew. And as the blood is pouring out through your fingers, she basically chucks the shotgun onto the desk and comes moving forward, grabbing up an apron. What happened? Where did he go?
I tell her, get a doctor, go out to the dining room, get Bill, just get Bill. I need Bill back here now.
Okay.
I'm just kind of leaning against, the stacked up boxes. The gun is still in my hand. I have not let go of the gun yet.
She doesn't want to leave, right? She keeps pawing at your throat, and she starts yelling, right?
Yeah.
Get a doctor.
And if have her, trying to tell her to get some wait staff out to table 6, where I know Bill is sitting, waiting for me to join him for lunch. I said, Bill's at table 6. I need Bill back here now. Get a doctor here now. I need help.
So Bill is pushing his way into the room. You can hear distantly the call being taken up. Is there a doctor in the house? Is there a doctor in the house? And other sounds, just the restaurant sounds, the kitchen sounds. Everything's getting louder. Everything's kind of twisting in amongst themselves. And this is the moment where shock is starting to rear up. Right.
Yeah, I'm sliding down the cases.
Yeah. Do you have what it takes to stay focused and conscious? Power. Times 3. Times 3.
Oh, really? Oh, like I got a glass jaw. No, I sliding down the cases. The first thing to hit the ground is the gun as it comes out of my hand. I head tilting forward. I'm still clutching my throat. The last thing I see before the lights go out are Bill's shoes.
All right. And when the lights come back up, you're in the back of an ambulance. Rough, uncomfortable cot. You can feel the straps of the cot digging in just below your shoulder blades and just above your hips and just below your knees. It's a rough wool blanket under you and over you, right? Bill's in the back, and so is a very young looking attendant, maybe still a teenager, some traces of acne, and he's in crisp white uniform, right? And he's holding a pressure bandage, big thick wad of cotton to the side of your throat.
You're just kind of looking around the ambulance. I know my voice is probably pretty rough, but I'm going to croak out to Bill, looking at him, call Washburn. When we get to the hospital, call Washburn.
I will. Don't you worry about it. You just worry about getting better.
Ask about my uncle. Is my uncle okay? Is my aunt okay?
Yeah, your uncle was coming to. smelling salts, I think. And oh man, what happened?
I turn my head and look at the side of the ambulance. You know, it's a very pained. I have a very pained look on my face. It's just as I'm turning my head to look at the wall of the ambulance, I just say, he's a ghost, Bill. That's all I can tell you right now. I don't know what else to say. He's just the ghost, Bill.
Don't worry, not even a ghost can escape us. We'll catch him. We'll catch that guy. Was it really Mickey?
Just shaking my head, still looking at the side of the ambulance. You know, I trying to piece together in my head what happened. You know, how did I lose control of the situation? How did I not anticipate that this was going to be a problem? You know, basically the internal dialogue of beating myself up. You know, I know that they were watching me. Someone was watching me. You know, how did I let my guard drop? You know, even in a place of family. I know my job is dangerous. I should have expected this.
When you arrive at the hospital, you're treated with a lot of respect and attention. Lots of concerned looks on nurses' faces, lots of thoughtful looks on doctors' faces. And it's not long before they tell you they're going to work on your neck and that they're going to give you something for the pain. And that brings sleep on again.
Got to get some rest somehow.
The hospital room, the roof of the hospital room that you're in narrows down to a tiny little tunnel. And just before you lose consciousness, what you hear is the charging of hoofbeats. When you awake again, you are in a ward similar to the one that you interviewed Edward Driscoll in, but probably not the same room, although what the detail is that cues you that it's not the same room, it's just a similar room, eludes you. Your mouth is dry, a little dizzy, right? There's a dull pain in your neck, and some other areas, legs, knees, ribs, like maybe Mickey landed some blows you weren't aware of, or maybe all those impacts against the wall. Definitely that first punch.
Yeah. Oh, most definitely. That first punch could have been a complete ringer. Knowing from my experience in the ring that was very nearly probably a knockout blow is what he was probably trying to go for right out of the gate, even in his enraged state. As someone who's a fighter, knows where to punch somebody in the head to either deafen them temporarily or permanently, or knock them out. You know, I'm still thinking and concerned about the diner, my aunt, my uncle, and then my mind starts turning over all of the information about Mickey, Steve's place, the kids, the neighborhood in that area. And in that a strong sense of vengeance really starts to kind of pull over, you know, my thoughts. I have rules that I have to live by as an officer of the law, but the sense of vengeance is there, definitely, that they have now crossed the line and there's no going back. Try and rest up.
Bill is asleep in a chair next to your bed. He looks old.
Is there looking around for a clock?
Yeah, there's one up on the above the doorway, right up on the entrance wall into this room. And it's 2 p.m, presumably of the following day.
Yeah, at this point, that's the time, is the day. I have definitely don't know. I would believe it would be the next day. Is Bill within? Is his knee within?
Yeah,
He's gonna reach out.
He's right
with,
there. Yeah. Yeah.
Flick my hand out and kind of try and hit him on the knee.
Right. Without opening his eyes or moving his position at all, he says, this doesn't excuse you for missing the date.
I wince as I nearly try and laugh, and I was just about to tell you we were going to be late for dinner.
My wife is pretending she understands.
Did you get a hold of Washburn?
I didn't fill her in on all the details. Did I get a hold of Washburn? I didn't. I left a couple of messages for him.
Did the doctor say how long I'm going to be here? How long I'm going to be laid up like this?
You should be, depending on you waking up. That was the concern. You should be good to go as soon as they do a final checkup on you. You're in bad shape. You're going to need to eat. But there's nothing more that they can do for you here other than tell you to rest.
Sounds like it's applesauce and fresh peaches if I can get them.
Well, I was thinking steak, but
I think chewing's going to be a little hard right now, Bill. I've got a lot to chew on already.
You still have all your teeth, and they said the jaw's not broken exactly.
Reminds me of my freshman year in the boxing ring.
Were you a target most of the time?
Try to avoid being a target. That's how I got light on my feet.
Through negative reinforcement?
Yeah. Bill, that guy hits like a freight truck. There's a reason why they call him Nicky the Fist, and that's the first time I've ever been able to say I can experience that firsthand.
Well, I gotta know. I ran down the hallway from the kitchen and into a room that has only one way in and windows that are too small for someone to get out, that don't even open anyway. So I have to ask you, where did he go? I know he was in there. I believe your aunt. I believe your uncle.
I told you, Bill, the man's a ghost. Just like the kid said. He went straight through the wall, Bill. Straight through the desk and through the wall.
He's like, keep it down. Don't let them hear you talking like that. I thought you meant like we'd never catch him. That kind of...
Oh. Well, at this rate, we're not going to catch him. Not when he can do stuff like that. This kind of explains something a little inexplicable that I had seen, though, at the scene of the massacre, which Washburn will be able to corroborate too. Behind one of some credenza or some armoire or something up against the wall, there was a shoe stuck in the wall. Like, not like somebody kicked it, but like it was in the wall and it still had the foot in it.
That's real? That happened?
Washburn saw the foot there too. He said it was the most, out of everything there, it was the most unusual thing they found. But I don't know if anything I can do against this thing, because he's not a man, whatever he is now. He doesn't look like he used to. He looks like he used to, Bill. He looks like some guy straight off the truck, fresh and green, young kid. But he doesn't look like the Mickey the Fist that we've seen in the last year.
Yeah, like how many kids does he have? He's no young man. His kids are adults.
Yeah.
I gotta say, you sound a little crazy.
I feel a little crazy, Bill.
I wish I could back you up on some of this stuff. I think I'm just gonna tell you to leave this out of your report.
I've been leaving everything out of the report, Bill. The only thing we've been tracing are the books, the Morgan spot, the stakeouts that we've had Tyler and Kyle on, trying to tie anything as far as their illegal activities with guns, alcohol, either physically or through their books. But nothing I've seen. That bag that you've seen me carry is the only collection of stuff, and I've been keeping it to myself. If you really want to see what I've been looking at, everything is in that bag.
He opens his mouth and closes his mouth a few times. And he can't help, right? He can't help but look at the other people in the ward, right? A lot of them are sleeping. It's the middle of the afternoon, right? There's nothing much to do. But, nurses are coming in every now and again and checking something. He can't help but look at them and not talk when they're walking by and stuff. This friend of yours that was killed, what was his name? Allwell?
Well, I'm pretty sure whatever it is probably responsible, because he wanted a piece of evidence that I found on the scene. He wanted it. And right now, that piece of evidence is back in the office with the bag. You got to tell the guys back at the office to keep an eye out.
Well, okay. I'm going to go make a phone call, get things in motion, more in motion. Going to check on Washburn again. You sit tight. The doctor shouldn't be too much longer. They said they do. I know that sounds pretty funny with your condition. Anyway, that they're going to give you a final checkup and they'll let you know when you can be released. Right. I have my wife bring the car around so I can drive you home. And all right.
Thanks, Bill. I appreciate you being there. And I owe you lunch.
Yes. And dinner.
And dinner.
And he does this. We'll get you married yet. Everything will be fine. And he painfully levers himself out of the chair and limps his way out of the room.
I'm just kind of trying to watch, looking at the other patients laying in their beds, trying not to let my inner monologue, wear me down. But it's still, I got to find some way to get a handle back on things.
So not too much time passes, 15, 20 minutes, something like that. And doctor comes in, And he indicates you. And he has 2 orderlies with him. Very muscular looking orderlies in very white clothes. And one of them is holding a very white jacket with very long sleeves.
It's an awful funny looking monkey suit, Doc.
Well, sometimes our patients in need of special care are a risk to themselves and others. I assured these gentlemen that that would not be you.
What do you want me to say, Doc, as I look at the 2 orderlies?
Well, I'm recommending that you spend a few nights under observation at Danvers, which is a rest facility for people who have been overtaxed.
And if I say no?
Well, whether you go there or don't go there is my choice, I'm afraid, Mr. Thornton.
You mind if I sit up, Doc?
No, go ahead. Just
So
be careful. You're under a lot of strain.
I sit up in bed, and I kind of, looking over, I kind of, motion my hands for the chair that Bill was sitting in.
Oh, he sits down, little awkwardly, little nervously, hands shaking.
Yeah. And, I look at the orderlies and I just kind of nod my head. I say, I understand the situation. I understand it. I do. I'm sure you know what I do for a living. I'm sure you read the papers. And I can definitely understand how a man in your position, of taking the Hippocratic Oath, has to look out for his fellow brother. I understand that the job is very stressful.
Yes, and I understand you've recently had a personal loss.
Yes. A very good friend of mine was taken probably way before his prime, and the people who've done this, they work outside the law. And we're trying to bring them to justice, but you read the papers, Doc. It's like the zookeepers trying to maintain animals in the zoo. Sometimes somebody gets eaten when you step into a lion's cage, and that's a hard thing to take. I get it. But it comes with my line of work.
Right.
This recently... Oh, go ahead, Doc. Go ahead. I don't mean to interrupt.
No. I understand.
This recent incident in the past couple of days, my family's restaurant, it just goes to show what kind of an extreme these kinds of people will go to get to you. I let my guard down. I'm disappointed in myself. I'm disappointed in the staff. I kind of shake my head. Somebody should have gave me some kind of clue that something was going wrong, but I don't understand why nobody said anything. Maybe they didn't know what was going on.
Okay. Well, I think this is a conversation maybe you'll need to have with the doctors and at Danvers.
So you're letting me go, but you're not letting me go back out on the street.
Well, I'm discharging you from medical care and remanding you into the custody of Danvers Mental Hospital,
where I will have to stay for a couple of days.
Well, after your evaluation, yes. I'm certain a young man like you can find his way back to a firmer grip on the challenges facing him.
I'm kind of given the ground between his feet, the thousand eye stares. I'm trying to wrestle with the idea of being confined away from work and what's going on.
He has very nice shoes.
Can I trust that you will inform some people for me where I will be?
Oh, certainly. Although I believe your companion, Mr. Rayner, has stated that he'll take care of that, but we will notify,
Well,
as will Danvers.
these people aren't family members, though. I have two people I would definitely like you to inform of what my situation will be.
Okay.
It may sound unusual, but you say, I'll give you a list. There's only two names. One is Professor Carol Spinnaker.
Okay.
And as I write the other name out on the list, I say this one may sound a little unusual, but her name is Madame Bouveau. If you would please let them know where I will be, and that I would appreciate any opportunity they may have to contact me while I am there.
All right. Do you have I'll be able to contact this woman under the name of Madame Bouveau?
Yes.
Okay. I will do my best. And you will have some privileges of communication at Danvers. Don't worry about that, young man.
I look at the two orderlies. Is that going to be necessary, Doc? The sweater vest, is that going to really be necessary?
Oh, well, that, Mr. Thornton, that depends on you. Now, what we would like is that we'll help you get dressed if you need our assistance. And then these two young men will escort you to Danvers and make sure that you arrive and are introduced to your doctors safely. If there is some resistance, then for your safety and for public safety, they'll use the jacket.
When do we leave?
I'm ready to discharge you into their care now. Your stitches look fantastic.
Wish I could see him. Fling back the blanket, swing the legs off, standing up.
Kind of.
I mean, nothing's abrupt. I'm not like making, aggressive actions, but, I was already sitting up in bed having this conversation. I just kind of flick the blanket back, swing the legs off, slip into the house slippers that are probably sitting there next to the bed.
Yeah.
Look at the two gentlemen, and I just, kind of put my hands up and I say, trust me when I say, gentlemen, that I understand what the word compliance means.
So the doctor excuses himself, and one of the orderlies swings the curtain around the bed and provides you with your bloodstained and well-worn clothes. And one orderly is outside the curtain and one orderly is inside the curtain. And
get dressed. I don't make idle conversation with him.
At this moment, I will inform you that because of the excellent medical care you've received, you have regained 3 hit points.
All right. Still feeling a woozy, a little lightheaded. I mean, I just kept being out of surgery even the next day like this. And really trying to wrap around my head around how am I going to handle this situation now that I'm being taken off the board. Make no aggressive actions with, the orderly present, get dressed, nice, neat, try and adjust myself as best I can.
There's stiffness like the day after sparring. And there's a tightness, like skin pulling tightness, if your head goes too much to the side. Stitches, probably.
Yeah.
Right. Not a lot of pain here. Definitely a lot of pain.
Yeah.
In the jaw.
Little purpling and yellowing from a bruise probably as well. It'd take a while to go away.
Yeah. Now this particular orderly looks like a football player or something like that. Short hair, broken nose, cuts through the eyebrow, and he has really kind eyes.
Once I finish dressing, I just kind of look him in the face and say, all right, I'm ready to go.
Okay. Now you can call me Bud.
Hold up my hand to shake, nice to meet you, bud. My name's Alex.
All right, Alex. So he reaches up and he pulls the curtain across. It's a lot of stitches on your neck. You got really lucky.
I show him the bruise. Said it could have been a lot quicker had he been up a little further on the side of my head.
Ooh. You can even see the knuckle imprints. You must be pretty tough.
You don't do what I do with having a glass jaw, hopefully, nor weak will. You handle a lot of cases like mine, bud?
Well, to be honest, not so. And he pauses for a moment, racking his brain, and says, amenable to the situation. You can't help but grin a little bit.
I know what happens, bud, if I give you trouble. I know. So
Bud, finished with the curtain and making sure that all your stuff has been gathered up. All right. Nods to the nurse, and then his compatriot says, "This is Lou. Lou's already upset with me for having a conversation with you, but I don't think that this transportation from one care facility to another care facility should be filled with acrimony."
That's an interesting choice of words.
Well,
I would agree.
I'm trying to expand my vocabulary.
Acrimony is a good way to start.
Well, thank you. So Lou falls in on one side of you and Bud falls in on the other. Bud's a little bit ahead. He's going to be opening the doors. He's going to be, the guide, and Lou's behind.
Okay.
And, they move their way to the elevator, and, the attendant in the elevator, for it's an old elevator, seems to recognize them and unconsciously maybe shifts a little closer to the wall to not be too close to Crazy,
Yeah. Crazy and bloody.
And you're taken down to the ground floor, and and the ground floor, of course, is packed with people, inpatients and emergency cases and things like this. And so Lou gets a little bit closer, and he doesn't grab your arm so much as want to place an arm under your shoulder just to maintain that contact, that sense of feel. And he's kind enough to apologize. "I'm sorry," he says.
I look at him and tell him thank you. I said, thanks, Lou. it's kind of nice to have somebody, and I don't mean this in a nice way, actually put their hands on me and not mean me trouble.
Yeah, no trouble. And we appreciate your service.
So I continue to let him guide me through, until the point at which we're gonna part ways, where I'm gonna be staying.
So they guide you out
Oh.
to a white van that says, Danvers
Mm-hmm.
Mental Hospital. And it's more of a passenger van, although you don't get the benefit of windows.
Yeah.
Yeah. So not dissimilar to a police paddy wagon, but you're not going to be locked in. So Bud's sitting back with you, and Lou is going to drive.
Okay.
But they only drive about a block. And Bud pulls open his shirt a little bit and reveals a tattoo of a figure carrying swords.
You want to expand your vocabulary a little further, Bud? I get a new word for you. Inexplicable.
Not everything is easy to explain.
Yeah, it's not. Where are we going, Bud?
Well,
I get the feeling.
I think you should go home and get some sleep. You can get a taxi around the corner. Don't go to work. And we have someone that we're going to incarcerate in Danvers under your name.
I just look him dead in the face and I say, "Why me, Bud?"
You have an investigation to handle into that massacre, don't you?
Long before that, Bud. Why me?
I don't know about you, sir, but I know that I was chosen, that my name was seen in the stars, that my name was called by the sea, that in the spaces in between and in the spaces where we walk, my name was written to serve.
Serve
You've
what?
been called as a knight. We are your pages.
Looking down at the floor. Yeah, I got an investigation to handle. But there's a problem. It's become a little bit more than just an investigation. It's stepped over into the realm of personal interference at this point. So I think I'm going to be calling that. Do you know how I got this thing on my neck? And I look at him. I mean, even though I feel better, I am still twisted inside mentally about what's going on. So he could see in my eyes that sense of vengeance rising to the surface. Do you know how I got this thing on my neck?
No, I just assumed it was a knife. What happened?
Oh, no knife. No knife. Do you have any idea what's going on? Other than why you were supposed to come and get me? How much should I really be telling you about what's going on?
You can tell me anything you need to, sir. I am your page.
I'm going to need you to keep an eye on my house.
Okay.
I'll get
From-
that taxi.
From outside or inside?
I got a spare bedroom. I'm not used to having roommates or anybody inside the house, but at this point,
Who do you want me to say I am?
a caretaker. It's not unusual for people in my neighborhood to have somebody who helps take care of the house and the lawn. Spring coming up, that won't be too unusual.
Yeah, I like yard work. Okay. Do you need any painting done or anything like that?
Oh, I'm sure there's some busy work we can get you to do,
Okay.
but I'm
I'll
just
bring
going to tell you
plain
right now,
clothes.
you're going to mainly be there as muscle. Can you handle yourself, bud?
Yes, sir. Armed and unarmed.
So we're parked, and I kind of getting up, moving towards the back, to kind of let myself out so I can get into the street and get the taxi and get to the house.
They
so
don't interfere with that at all.
Getting out of the back, I say you're going to want to come armed.
All right.
Before I shut the door, I say, you kept saying we are your pages. Do you mean you and Lou?
Yeah. Lou's just not as chatty as me. I'm your page, sir. Anywhere, anytime, anything. I will do it.
Then meet us back at the house, and we'll figure out what we're going to do from there. But I'll have a call to make. So give me a few hours.
It'll take us a few hours. We got to quit our jobs and get our stuff.
I'll see you at the house, and I shut the doors.
They drive off.
As they're driving away, and I'm turning to go out to the street to hail a taxi, I'm rolling the collar down as best I can. I know the clothes are probably pretty rough. Tuck the coat up. Weather's still probably getting a little bit nicer if the weather is continuing on like it has been. So
no snow.
Still going to be having the Charleston coat on. Just trying to cover up the area around the neck. I just don't want anybody to make an assumption about something that they don't need to be putting their nose in. Flag down a taxi and head to the house.
Okay.
And I'm just thinking.
Taxi drops you off. Yeah.
As I'm walking up to the house, I'm thinking about, what's going to be the reaction with the professor and Madame Bouveau. So I'm going to try and call them first. I'll call the professor first. If he's, given the time of day, he's probably not in his office. So I'll try and leave a message with, a clerk. And then call Madame Bouveau. And basically this, what I'm going to tell both of them, or either, over the phone or via messages, you would be contacted by Danvers, potentially, or a doctor from the hospital, letting you know that I have been remanded to the care of Danvers until such time when I may be released. I would appreciate it if you actually come by my house first before making any attempt to contact me there. If you choose to do so, it's very important. The next call I make is I go over to the day tray, looking down at it, flip it over and take the card that Malone had given me and go over to the phone, hand on the receiver, haven't taken it off yet, just kind of staring at the numbers. And I call that number on the card.
Okay. So you are connected to the exchange, and then your call is connected on the other end. And there's a moment of silence, and then that familiar voice says,
How can I help you, Alex?
What is Mickey? It's like
Many answers to that question. Like a ghost, Mickey is hunger given flesh, but he lacks the substance to retain it.
and
I really wish
You-
somebody would just talk to me in plain English for once.
You, my knight, are going to have to deal with him. You've seen him with your own eyes.
And I felt him with my own skin. And it's pretty apparent that whatever he is not something that's going to be easily stopped. So these 2 pages, they're going to be here at the house.
Yes,
I'm going to need something I can use for that when I find this guy, then I can actually put him down. Because I'm pretty sure he would have had my family killed or had done harm to my family. I'm pretty sure he killed Steve. And even though Steve was on the outs, he's still a friend. But I'm going to need something.
they will have what you need to confine Nicky and bring him to me to be undone.
Undone. I'm still, picturing when he's saying to be undone, I'm still picturing that tongue coming out of his mouth. Yeah, he needs to be undone permanently.
You and I are in complete agreement.
Then I only got one last question for you.
Which is?
Am I supposed to be a white knight or a black knight?
That is an excellent question. The White Knight moves first. What do you do?
If you talk to the pages before they get here, you tell them to be ready.
the line disconnects.
Slowly hanging up the phone, looking around the kitchen. I kind of feel a little lost, a little out of my depth.
Okay. Now, earlier, you spoke to Carol Spinnaker's aide, teacher's aide, personal assistant, whatever. And, of course, to Madame Beauvais. You recognize, talking to the phone that, the drugs, the sleep, the injury messed with your memory. But Madame Beauvais, you talked with her, whatever he is, manservant, business manager, who knows? Right. But Carol Spinnaker calls you back.
How are you doing, Professor? I hope I'm not interrupting your day of class.
No, but I'm very concerned about you and your message about Danvers, and I was going to call you later to say that my friends at Miskatonic got back to me.
It's the second time I've heard that university brought up. I've got a guy on staff who went there.
Really?
Is it a good school?
In certain subjects.
What kind of subjects?
Well, they've got quite a few unusual endowments, a lot of funds for research that is going out of vogue, archaeological research and psychological research, and more literary research. So you had asked me about certain things, your card and your experiences, and I promised you I would communicate with experts in the field, and they want to meet you.
Well, I'm at home. I'm going to have company. If
Well,
they would
whenever.
like to come by the house, I'm more than happy to have them come here.
All right. Well, I'll invite them down for the weekend. Right. I know the weekend is mostly over, but and they'll stay with me, and if it works out, you can come over and visit, or they can come visit you.
Between me and you, Doctor, right now, the assumption is that I'm in the hospital. I'm at Danvers right now.
Okay, and why are you at home?
Due to how do I put this? Due to extenuating circumstances, I am here at my house getting ready to confront something. If you're able to get here with your friends as soon as possible, any information that you may be able to lend to this confrontation would be greatly appreciated.
When you say something, Alex, you make me question not being in Danvers. What do you mean? You sound agitated and very tired.
And you pretty much hit the nail on the head. I am very agitated and tired. I have had nothing but frustration in this investigation. And the first time I'm actually confronted by a suspect, he slips through my hands like smoke. So if your friends can explain how a man who was presumed dead come back as a younger version of himself and then proceed to accost my family and friends, it may lend some weight and assistance to what's about to come down the pipe. I know this sounds crazy, Doctor, Professor, just like that first time when I walked into your office and you took me in on that first night, but not much has changed. In fact, it's probably gotten a little worse. It is inexplicable. It is unexplainable. I don't have any way to put it into words, what I've seen, except for a thing of horror. something of sheer terror. It's an anathema is what this is. And I mean that not just in a biblical sense, but in a literal sense. Whatever this thing is an anathema.
I'm going to come over to your house.
Do you want some coffee?
Yeah. I'm
Have a
guessing
pot
you
ready.
don't have any brandy.
You definitely know how to make me chuckle every time we talk. Can appreciate about you.
I'll see you soon, Alex. And he hangs up.
I hang up the phone. The next call I make is going to be to the accounting firm. And I'm going to try and get to the desk where Cheryl. Cheryl, yeah. The clerk who I had the conversation about the books with and getting assistance on those.
Right.
And I'm going to ask her if she could do me a favor, if she could pass a message to one of my fellow officers. His name's Kyle. If you could get the message directly to his desk and to his phone, that I need to speak with him in private, and that he can reach me, or if he would be so kind as to come and visit me at my house.
Well, all right, Alex. It's kind of a strange request, but
I'm afraid to use a phone anyplace else outside my house right now, and I am a little worried about going directly to work. I need someone from work to come to me, and if I
I see.
I don't really trust the switchboard, if you understand what I'm saying. If I can get the message through you, then it might look innocuous.
All right, I'll call him right away.
And then I'll hang up to that. Thank you. I owe you dearly.
Yes, you do.
And I'll hang up the phone. Notepad, magnet, put a note on the refrigerator, reminding me to pick something up nice for Cheryl at the office, at the accounting office. Finish making the coffee.
When you open the fridge,
Mm-hmm.
one of your dinner plates is in the fridge. On it is a heart and a note. I want it.
Looking at that, I just muttered to myself, well, you're going to have to get into the Treasury office somehow. Because right now, it ain't with me.
And we will close the curtains on tonight's escapades.
To kind of throw the dinner plate down on the table. don't necessarily like getting in bed this deep. I still don't trust Xavier.
What?
Yeah.
How can you say that? He's so nice.
Oh, yeah. Lesser of two evils. I got to try and figure out which one that is. Right now, he is looking like the lesser of two evils because I'm naturally going to assume that this heart on the plate is Steve's. And that now they've been in my house. Now he's been in my house.
And when was he in your house? That's an interesting question.
Well, if it's only him that can do this, I don't know what he's been up to and what he has been up to, aside from, accosting my family at the diner. But in the time between the discovery of Steve's body and now, we're talking probably now nearing 40, well, longer than 48 hours, because if he knocked me out and it's the next day, we are talking probably 3 to 4 days between, if I remember correctly, between the discovery of Steve's body.
I'm not going to comment about the timeline. That's
yeah. Oh, I know. I'm
something
just thinking,
yeah.
In my head, yeah, because that would have been session 3. We're now hitting session 6. So the fight, I was really worried about the fight with Mickey. I knew Mickey was going to be a hard hitter.
Yeah.
Just from his reputation as a boxer and all that. I mean, I knew that was coming. And that was pretty close. That was really close. 5 points away from from 0 and probably going unconscious. Having enough will to stay up, that would have been another question. Had that fight gotten prolonged at any point in time. It is probably really good that I did fail the sanity roll.
Yes, just to unload the weapon.
Because that was the trigger to go into fight or flight, and it was definitely fight. Between what happened to Steve, him coming in and attacking my aunt and uncle, now attacking me. He's obviously, at that point, seeing that he's not going to be reasonable up until I regret showing him the tattoo. That's, probably a niggling regret in the back of Alex's mind. I could have avoided this whole situation had I not shown him the tattoo.
I mean, Malone, the conversation about Malone was also upsetting him.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure that I can remember too, because he seemed a little, in Alex's mind, it seemed like he was upset that it wasn't just him. Like maybe he wasn't special in some way.
Not special enough.
Yeah. That something else had been given to someone else as well. I mean, that's a big assumption for Alex to make, but that would generally be kind of jealousy would be the kind of thing he would equate it to, maybe in some way, getting angry. Now I think, I get the feeling that Alex is getting to a point to where he's going to have to make a decision about what side of the law he's going to be on. I mean, that's the feeling, that he's now stepping into a territory that is very dark gray. Don't go to work, He just called Xavier, and I've waited. What has it been now? Again, probably that was probably very early in the week that happened. So now he is kind of seeing himself step across the line. And it very well could be due to the stress. I mean, heck, mechanically, and this is speaking outside of character, I mean, mechanically, Alex has been operating, near half. Well, I wouldn't say near, but he has been operating with his loss of sand now, with no attempt to recover or rest,
Right.
for well into the week. Now we're stretching into the second week.
The failed roll with Mickey was a 1-point loss.
Oh, okay. All right. Cool. Thank you for bringing me up to date on that. I mean, still, at a 33 out of 40, from where I started, I mean, it's still, and no attempt to recover.
Yeah.
It's a matter of marshaling forces now. I mean, because that is going to be Alex's intent, is to move. If a white knight makes the first move, then as soon as the pieces come together on my part of the board, then he's going to move. Okay. And he does know that's going to be a big risk to himself, to the people around him, to his career, to his family. But he can't let it go. And really, part of the driving part of it is Steve. He sees Steve as being the most innocent person in this whole thing. Steve tried to do the right thing. Steve gave up the accounting book. Steve, he was not a guy who could stand up for himself.
Right.
But yeah, this is definitely a dark gray area for someone from the Treasury.
Any thoughts about getting committed?
It was sensible. I mean, I didn't expect it coming. That maybe it was a result of the outburst, and I don't know. Maybe you made a luck roll and it rolled in the negative for me. There is kind of what I might have thought. I thought was kind of going on behind the scenes, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm not gonna get put away, because if I get put away, then this right. Something even worse could happen.
You were planning to make an escape?
No. I mean, unfortunately, no. I mean, Alex knows what he should do.
I see.
You
were gonna prove that you were sane.
That would have been his, yeah. I mean, as crazy as I sound, I'm gonna prove that I am sane. I mean, that's the logic going through his head right now, is that I know it sounds crazy, but I know what I saw. It's inexplicable. I can't explain it to you. That's why I try and keep using those terms like it's a ghost. He's a ghost, trying to equate it to something
comprehensible.
Yeah, comprehensible, making the incomprehensible comprehensible. But and that getting, when you said that the truck stopped, I thought it was going to go one of two ways. Either I'm about to get whacked, or this connection somehow with Xavier is what's about to happen, or be brought more to light. Right. I was not expecting pages. But that was definitely the impetus to say, okay, this is the point when I do need to call the phone number. I've been holding out long enough. I've been trying to do this on my own. I reached a point to where I can't. I've seen kind of what I'm up against. Now I need help. And I can't get that help from Bill. I can't get that help from the department. So now it was back out to call the professor.
That phone call would be really rough on poor Dr. Spinnaker.
Oh, I'm sure. Seeing a student, a promising student, unravel before your eyes, or through your ears,
as it were.
Yeah. Probably the worst way to hear somebody is to only be able to hear their voice and not be able to see, what they're going through, but to just hear it in their voice.
Yeah. All right.
How do you think the characterization's still going?
Well, I think Alex is only becoming more real to me, right? And as we move on, we've gone from the kind of, it's the word I want. He was like dedicated, motivated. There's some things he wanted to do, and it felt like he had a system in place for keeping himself moving forward. You know, easy to get distracted, easy to shift focus. So he has his life organized. You know, at this time I do this, and at this time I do that, and I make these plans, and I put my files in this way, and I just keep moving forward, and I can get everything done without being distracted. But now it feels like desperation. So
Nice.
I like that.
Good. And that's I'm trying to be intentional about that. I mean, it's very on genre. It's very on theme, right?
Yeah.
To confront something like that, the horror of the mythos.
Yeah.
I have yet though to have a complete break where
Right.
the sand loss and the roll is just so bad that, you know, I mean, I've been losing a point here or there, but the big one was that initial drop was probably the push in desperation.
Yeah.
And the loss too, right? I mean, the loss of a friend, what seems to be the loss of privacy, what seems to be the loss of freedom of movement, and to some extent control. Yeah, I mean, when I started playing Alex, I mean, I wanted him to seem like, I mean, even the way he looks and the way the character, the image looks, you know, he's clean cut, he's organized, he has a system of doing things, and slowly that system has kind of been somewhat dismantled, or at least at the very least disrupted. You know,
Right.
I think it was like maybe halfway through is where he started talking about making a career change. You know,
Right.
the Treasury just can't do it for me anymore. I've got to go to the Bureau.
Right.
You know, they've got more power, they've got more resources. I could be more
All right,
effective
so
there than I am.
when you left the house this morning for your date, it was, you know, clean shirt, clean suit, shaved, hair done. And
Yeah.
so now when he finally gets home a whole day later,
Yeah.
disheveled, beard, bloody clothes, stitches.
It is in his neck. And the first thing I did when I got home was not try and clean myself up.
Right.
So he's back to that. The only important date he had to keep track of got missed. And so the whole reason now for staying clean is kind of gone.
Right.
So he's definitely, you know, lapsing back into that. I'll keep shaved and everything, but I still don't want to see this thing on my chest.
Right. Which you definitely saw move, right? Come charging out.
Yeah, the reminder. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, is there anything else we should discuss before?
The only last question I have for you, as far as like running the game, running Call of Cthulhu, is how do you feel on your end when you've been putting out information so far? How do you feel to an extent that the information that you've been putting out is helping to point in a direction, to operate as a clue or a hint, because we are still talking about an investigation?
Right.
Do you feel like you have, as we've been going along so far, now hitting session 6, this one wasn't so much of an investigation as it was the kind of a culmination, kind of a high point in the story so far. But up until now, do you feel like the information that you had been dribbling out has helped to direct Alex's intention?
I'm going to recontextualize that.
Okay.
If I had done a traditional scenario like The Haunting or Mr. Corbett's house or something
Yeah.
like that, then that's exactly what I would be doing. I would have a stack of useful and interrelated clues
Mm-hmm.
that would be in specific locations, and I would need to, let's say, make it reasonable to get into the first situation to find the first clue, which is going to lead to one or more other clues and that kind of stuff, which is not what I do.
Yeah.
Instead, we started out with Alex in a situation where a friend told him about a thing.
Yep.
And then I didn't release or dribble out information. You went and got it.
Okay.
So if you had blown Steve off, nothing about the books or the double set of accounting or the actual robbery, like the details of the robbery at the auction house, you would have learned none of it. Then you would have gone to work the next day and learned about the Morgans because this is the new topic in the office. Right?
Yeah.
If you decided to blow off work that day, then you wouldn't have learned that either. So, like, if instead you'd gone to the accounting office to have it out with your dad, right? That kind of stuff. So all of the things that happened that you learned are because of where you went, who you talked to, and the skills that got involved in that process. And so depending on the conversation we had, that determined what information you learned, the questions that you asked or whatnot. And I don't have a end of mystery solution in mind. Like when Agent Thornton gets to the whatever and can put the thing in the other thing and say the words of power, then this adventure is over. Like I don't have one of those. But there's going to be a point where I think Agent Thornton feels that he has accomplished something.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
At some point, he will get a sense of it. He will hopefully the whole shakedown with Mickey the Fist. And I asked the question about the whole clue process, knowing that the standard way to do the modules and things like that is kind of how it operates. So maybe I should ask, do you feel like when Alex was going to places and asking questions that the information you are providing or have provided up until this point has helped to assist in furthering the interconnectedness of an investigation? Because it is a little bit more on the fly, a little bit more improv style, which can be very challenging if you're trying to manage a mystery where there should be a lot of interconnectedness, red herrings aside. But if there's some kind of throughput, do you think that it's helped to push in the continuing of the investigation?
I think only you can answer that question, and maybe only when we get to the end. But I feel like the right questions are getting asked. I feel like interesting locations have been gone to for legitimate reasons. Right.
So nothing way outside the boundaries, right?
Yeah. There are clues that have been ignored. And I don't know if they've been ignored by conscious decision or because we're playing like an hour at a time. Like at this point, we're somewhere in a second session. If we've been playing around the table, most of what we've done has all been one night's worth of play. Yeah. And so we're now somewhere in session 2. So it hasn't really even been that long of an investigation, even though it's been many 90-minute, 1 hour, 50-minute episodes, kind of thing. But spread out over weeks and weeks and weeks. So that makes it hard, I think, to have that sense of, aha, oh, and this and this and this. But we're not in that kind of situation anyway. Like, it's open-ended,
Yeah.
right? The intention is campaign play, open-ended play. So it's not like a one-shot where, okay, you've met, let's use Xavier as an example, right? You've met Xavier Morgan. He's a obvious bad guy, so it ends when the bad guy gets taken out.
Yeah.
Right? He might be more of a ongoing character than, someone to run up to and shoot or whatever. But a Mickey the Fist kind of guy, I think there's a certain amount of relief that's going to happen if he kills you, or you kill him, or he gets arrested, or whatever. There's going to be a certain sense of that was a story.
Well, I
in
mean,
a bigger story. Yeah.
I definitely have a very Hemingway attachment to characters. So if the story goes on long enough, eventually one of us is going to die.
That's right.
Yeah.
Eventually
someone is going to die.
The old man, and the old man who's now a young man, and the sea.
Yeah. No, I was just kind of curious from like your point of view, from that side of the screen. And it's interesting to hear you say that there are quote unquote clues that have been ignored, which kind of makes me wonder if I'm looking at my notes and I'm like, did I miss something? Not trying to metagame it, because you mentioned that. I don't want to do anything like that. But it is interesting to think, did I overlook something during a session that I should have made a note on? Was I not paying close enough attention, or thinking too much about the character and what they were going to do to notice that as a player? Right. Or did it legitimately seem like unimportant? Yeah, that's definitely something. I mean, that's the whole thing about a clue is if you see something, there has to be a certain amount of attachment you can connect to it between extraneous factors, locations, people, places, things. I mean, but it hasn't slowed you down any. No. Yeah, he's like a bull in a china shop. He's just kind of continuing on one foot at a time to keep, beating the streets. So, but other than that was the only other question I could really think of. I'm glad we had the conversation, and hopefully it helps people to understand, why we had the conversation about combat, how much different it is, and how it kind of fluctuates, even though only a couple of things happened. Right. But they should also illustrate the deadliness of a Call of Cthulhu game using this system. And even though there wasn't a lot of nuance to what we were doing, there was definitely some consideration of, at least on my part as a player, do I try and dodge this? Do I think can I take another hit before I resort to gunfire? Because up until that point, there was that concern of, I need to keep this quiet. And then once it was apparent that if I don't do something, this will be the end of Alex Thornton. And this is a restaurant full of people, and it's a family. It's my family's restaurant, and I don't want to. What's Dad gonna say? Yes, when that comes up. So, but yeah, other than that, I think it's I'm still enjoying it so far. It's definitely something to look forward to. Yeah. So I guess to put an end to that. So what we've had was a friend tells Alex about a robbery. Mm-hmm. And Alex discovers a charismatic leader. Oh, yeah. Which then quickly turns into inexplicable events. Yeah, within days. And then the friend who talked about the robbery is horribly murdered. Yep. Probably by this missing gangland figure. Yeah. Based on
witness reports, who then creates a hostage situation for Alex, demanding this
Effigy.
small figurine, the small statuette. And so that this has to have Alex reeling, right? None of this can make sense. And in the midst of it all, he's going to be committed. But this charismatic figure prevents that.
Yeah.
And sets up a false Alex in Danvers' mental facility.
I know it's only going to be for a couple of days, but it's still dangerous to do. Which, to some extent, would be impressive. You know, I hate to say it, but it would definitely be something that if he's got the ability to do something like that, to swap me out. I mean, I'm not like a public newspaper figure or somebody like that. I'm not a politician.
That's right, not famous.
Yeah, I'm not somebody that obvious, but still, you know, a body swap, that's a pretty strong thing to do. And the other thing about his influence that, you know, Alex realizes, being a charismatic leader, is when Bud says that they'll quit their jobs to come to the house.
Yeah.
I still don't know if it's good bedfellows or not.
Well, that's the ideal situation, because this is really about the experience
Yeah.
of play. That's exactly the kind of thing I'm wanting to hear. Is my decision a good decision? That's perfect.
It is. And that's an honest reaction too. I mean, it's I know sometimes these kind of situations can really come off feeling contrived, you know, where it's so overtly obvious about, here are two bad sides. You really got to decide between these two obvious bad things, which is the worst of the two evils.
Right.
And only up until now, this session, was it a little bit more of an easy decision, a more palatable decision to make, right? Xavier has done nothing really to harm me in any way, shape, or form. It's creepy as hell about him, his wanting to become, you know, use the family's firm. Why am I hearing about this? The tattoo that I obviously inherited in some way, shape, or form from him. And then to see the obvious, more apparent evil action done by Mickey the Fist, right?
Right.
It's something that almost makes that, which is the two worst evils that I'm seeing as a civilized man, which are the two evils that I could palate for a while.
Right. And then the monkey wrench in it is the massacre.
Yeah. Because that I'm not exactly sure. I don't know. I haven't been able, as far as I know, Washburn's not made any connection with anybody. I haven't really had to try to have a conversation with him. I'm trying to get a conversation with him, see if anything else has come up from that. I can't pin that on Xavier because I don't have any evidence. And if I did say anything, it'd be completely speculative. So, yeah, I mean, again, you know, as an investigation, as a mystery, it still leaves this fog of war, this cloud over everything, kind of obfuscating what really is going on.
Right. Yeah. So some of the things that are, let's say, found, uncovered, or whatever, may have immediate significance, and some of the details found may have more long form significance. And yeah. And that's part of the fun, I hope.
Oh, yeah. It definitely is. I mean, that's those of us who run games, that's kind of, I think that's part of what we really want to try and see happen, is how how much story can happen along the way, right? Wherever we're going to get, however short or long it may be, how much can happen,
Right.
and how enjoyable can it be? I mean, people are going to get different kinds of things out of. I mean, if I would have been playing the artist, right, this would have been a completely different experience,
Right.
you know, because
Really.
he would not have had any financial power behind him or anything, you know, anything like that. I mean, it would have been a completely different kind of experience in storyline, you know, looking back on it, you know.
Yeah. One fun detail I was thinking about today while commuting was phone messages are being left by the aunt or and or uncle. Please have Alex come to the restaurant. Why? Because they're they're held up with Mickey the Fist. How long does it take for Alex to go somewhere to get the message? How long does it take for Alex to call back? And then how long does it take for Alex to actually get there? And so there's all of those. So, you know, what if you had gone off on one of your, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And it's like, and it's the next day, it's Saturday. Yeah, I'll call my aunt back on Saturday. What would have been found in that back room?
Yeah, because that could have very easily been what happened. I mean, that really, honestly, what it could have been. I mean, oh, it's just my aunt. You know, they're always wanting me to come down there and have lunch or something, blah, 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 blah. I mean, it could have been just blown off as you do sometimes, right? You don't make a commitment to it because, I've got this more important thing to do, right? It was an interesting decision to go ahead and go down there. Because I think what I was walking into was another conversation with Bill. Right. Get Bill out of the office, have a little bit of different context with Bill, and then move on. So it's nice to hit, you know, get a right hook, so to speak, in a situation like that, where you go into it really thinking, oh, this is just going to we're just going to do a little scene here and then we'll move on. And then it turns into something a lot more major, you know. That's part of what I really enjoy about the RPG experience, is that you honestly, sometimes you just really don't know if the decision you're making is going to change the whole impetus of what's been going on so far, or it's just going to kind of continue on like it is.
Yeah. Well, I think you definitely crossed a Rubicon today. And
yeah, that was going through my head too. You know, I just watched The Gentleman on Netflix.
Yes.
And very entertaining show. But when I don't know if you've watched it, but there is
I've seen it.
Okay, so the scene when she is talking to the fight promoter about the Romans, you know, you've crossed that river, you've gone, you know, there's no going back now, you've burnt those bridges. You know, was kind of hitting me in the back of the head going, is this the line? Is Alex where he's going to snap? And maybe Alex makes a break for it. Maybe this is where Alex fails a sand roll and then winds up on the wrong side of the law.
Yeah. So in our next session, we'll see what shakes out from these different phone calls and these different experiences in family restaurants in Boston.
Yeah, I'm waiting for one big call to come from that. That's the call from Dad.
Right. All right. On that note, thanks for playing.
No, thanks for running. As usual, appreciate it.
My pleasure. Take care.